In just 5 years, France went from an absolute monarchy to a republic, executed its king and queen, and descended into a period so violent is literally called the Terror. Over 16,000 people were guillotined, the entire social order collapsed, and it all started with bread. It is 1789 and France is the most powerful country in Europe, but it's also bankrupt. To understand why, you need to understand how French society worked. It was divided into 3 estates. The first estate was the clergy, about 100,000 people. The second, the nobility, comprised about 400,000 people. And last, the third estate was basically everyone else, and that was 27 million people. Peasants, merchants, lawyers, and workers. But here's the problem. The first and second estates owned most of the land and paid almost no taxes. Meanwhile, the third estate paid nearly all the taxes but had almost no political power. France desperately needed money. King Louis XVI has spent a fortune helping America fight the British in the American Revolution, and combine that with decades of expensive wars and the lavish lifestyle at Versailles, and you get a financial crisis. But it gets worse. In 1788, a massive hailstorm destroys crops across France, then comes one of the coldest winters on record. Bread prices rocket. For a working person in Paris, bread could consume 80 to 90% of their income. People are starving, and they are angry. In May 1789, Louis XVI calls a meeting of the Estates General, basically a parliament that hasn't met in 175 years. He is hoping they will approve new taxes. Instead, the Third Estate does something radical. They declare themselves the National Assembly and say they represent the people of France, not just their estate. On June 20th, locked out of their meeting hall, they gather at the tennis court and take a note not to separate until France has a constitution. This is the tennis court oath, and it's basically a peaceful revolution. But Louis XVI doesn't see it that way. He starts gathering troops around Paris. The people of Paris panic. Are they about to be massacred? On July 14, 1789, a crowd storms the Bastille, a fortress and prison in Paris, looking for weapons and gunpowder. They find 7 prisoners, but the symbolic message is clear. The people are in control now. July 14th is still celebrated as Bastille Day, France's national holiday. Over the next few months, the National Assembly abolishes feudalism, passes the Declaration of Man and Citizen, and strips the Catholic Church of its power and property. The revolution seems like it's working, but here is where it starts to spiral. Other European monarchies are terrified. If revolution can happen in France, it could happen anywhere. Austria and Prussia therefore declare war on France in 1792. France is now fighting foreign enemies while dealing with internal chaos. Food shortages continue, inflation is out of control, and there is a massive debate about what France should even be. You've got moderates who want a constitutional monarchy, radicals who want a republic, and ultra-radicals who want to completely remake society. The most radical group was the Jacobins, led by Maximilien Robespierre. In September 1792, the monarchy is abolished, France is now a republic. And in January 1973, they do something that shocks all of Europe. They execute King Louis XVI by guillotine in front of a crowd of thousands. 9 months later, Marie-Antoinette, his wife, follows. But executing the king doesn't solve France's problem. The country is still at war, still broke, still unstable. The Jacobins decide that to save the revolution, they need to eliminate all enemies, real or imagined. This is the Reign of Terror. From September 1793 to July 1794, France is governed by the Committee of Public Safety, which is actually incredibly unsafe. At least 16,600 people are officially executed by guillotine. Estimates of total death, including those who died in prison or without trial, go up to 40,000. Anyone can be accused of being an enemy of the revolution: nobles, priests, moderates, and even fellow revolutionaries who aren't radical enough. Robespierre calls it virtue through terror. If you are not completely committed to the revolution, you are part of the problem. But there's something about terror. Eventually, everyone becomes afraid they are next. On July 27, 1794, the National Convention turns on Robespierre. Within 24 hours, he is arrested. The day after that, he is executed by the same guillotine he sent thousands to. The terror is over. France tries various forms of government, but none of them works particularly well. The country is exhausted, the economy is still a mess, and France is still at war with much of Europe. There enters Napoleon Bonaparte, a brilliant military general who's been winning victories against France's enemies. Napoleon stages a coup in 1799. By 1804, he crowns himself emperor. Wait, what? After all that fighting to get rid of monarchy, France ends up having an emperor? Kind of. France never fully goes back to the old system. The revolution's idea of liberty, equality, rights, citizens instead of subjects, these don't disappear. They spread across Europe and the world. The shockwaves from those 5 years are still with us. Every time people stand up to authority and demand rights, every time a constitution guarantees equality, every time we debate what a just society looks like, we are still wrestling with the legacy of the French Revolution.